like to welcome everyone to our Community Redevelopment Agency meeting this Thursday, April the 7th, 2020 at 6 p.m. here in City Hall Council Chambers. With that, could we please stand together and engage in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Rivas, will you please call the roll?
Chair Blackwell.
Here.
Member Matheny.
Here.
Member Askew.
Here.
Member Trace.
Here.
Vice Chair Davis.
Here.
Member Loden.
Here.
Member Irvin.
Here.
And we'd also like to welcome Lindsay Mazinski. Is that correct? Or is that close enough?
Hi.
It's good to have you here tonight as our attorney. First of all, we have our minutes from February the 3rd. Have you had time to review those? Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
I don't see them in front of me, but I think it was referring, those minutes were referring to that meeting, and it should have been the meeting before anyway in the version that I had. Instead of saying the approval of the previous minutes, it was referring to that date.
February 3rd?
Yeah, because it's not those minutes.
Oh, right.
We were
That's right.
we were approving December's minutes, and it referred to it as February's minutes. That's the only thing I seen. But with that changed, I would make a motion.
Okay. Thank you. With that change noted, do we have a motion for the approval of the February 3rd?
I made a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it carries. This brings us to our first item of new business, our VFW loan agreement. I recognize our city manager, Mr. Sturgeon.
Thank you, Chairman. If you recall, several months back, a year ago, we started talking about putting a new facade on the VFW facility, and that's come to fruition. Before you have a forgivable loan or a grant agreement with the VFW, their commander has signed it. It's for $100,000. I do want to make a request. I'm watching all these projects come in higher than what our estimates are being, and I'd request the board authorize the city manager to go up to his authority of an additional $50,000. I don't think it's going to get there, and obviously if it does, I'll have to come back to the board, but just to keep the thing moving along. Mr. DeJesus told me last week they are interviewing several contractors right now to get this project moving.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Member Davis?
Yes. Are there any designs or anything like that?
Yes, sir. It was in your package. Can we pull those up? Do we have the ability to do that or put it on the overhead? Okay. Oh, it's on it. Okay. It should be in your package. It was emailed to you.
Right. But
Can we put it up on the?
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
I
think
got
he
that.
has it.
I usually print it.
Okay.
So we don't have it on here?
No, sir.
So what do we need?
But like I said, he's already assigned the agreement, and this is the agreement we came up with, and we'll provide that to you.
I'm fine.
Are you fine? Member Matheny?
Thank you. Do you have bids in? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're going to hire the contractor, and we're just going, according to the agreement, we'll just pay those bills as we get the receipts and the permitted work is completed and approved. That keeps us having to go through the procurement process if they do the procurement of a contractor.
I mean, I don't know. 50,000 is a lot for me to go up to. I mean, there are escalating construction costs. Most of us up here know that and deal with it. I mean, 50,000 is a lot, though. I mean, it's half again what we've approved. So even if you're saying, even if we said 50, you'd have to bring it back. So I guess I don't want to hear the other members' opinion on that. I mean, I just think that's a lot. I mean, typically we would do a 20% contingency. something along those lines.
I'm good with a 20%. Sorry.
Member Loading?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was thinking 20% also,
Okay.
which would be 120. If I look at other costs that we're seeing, in our industry, the same thing, they're up at least 20.
We have any other discussion? Member Davis?
But aren't we, I think what city manager's looking for is not just cost overruns because of inflation, but that's an old building. They're going to run it, they are absolutely going to run into some unforeseen issues somewhere. I'd hate for them to have to come to a stop and then remobilize or something like that, waiting to hit one of our every other month meetings or something. I don't know.
Member Matheny?
Do they,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, do they have a budget? Like
Well,
broken down into different
The
elements?
city's architect, actually, yes, and the city's architect estimated that cost at 100,000, but Mr. Davis, I think that's probably gonna be 6 or 8 months ago. And like I said, we've seen those cost escalations.
So if that's 6 or 8 months ago, that could easily be 120 by now before they ever even get into working.
We could leave it at the 20% contingency, and if it gets over that, I'll call a special meeting if you,
But are you going to do that by line item, though? So if you because if you wait to the end, if you're going through it, first couple line items, you could just completely blow through the budget, and then you're sitting there.
He has not received the quotes yet. He's still working on those. He's asked for those last week, still hasn't done that. The 2 contractors he's interviewing.
Is this any kind of a matching grant?
No, sir. It's a forgivable loan. So if they keep it as the VFW for a certain period of time, I don't remember what it is, Lindsay, but
7 years.
7 years, then it would be forgiven.
Member Matheny?
Thank you. So I thought this was an up to kind of a thing. And I mean, I guess it needs to be evaluated when the bids come in, and that maybe the VFW has to come with some funds to make up the differential. I mean, that's kind of how I thought it was. And then in conversations that I had with the commander, we kind of had the conversation of, depending on how the numbers come in, is there an opportunity, and who's getting the bids, the VFW?
Yes.
So is there an opportunity that they can reach out to the community and say, is there anybody who would be willing to, do the paintwork or the landscaping or what, like that there's opportunities to try to work with the community for this community asset? I mean, I guess I'm not wanting to have like an unlimited pot of money. So I guess for me, there's too many unknowns, I guess, like to just say, okay, well, I'm approving another 50,000, so.
Any other discussion?
And we can always meet, right? They can always call a meeting if we need to.
Correct. Let's do that.
Are you saying you're willing to work with the 20%?
Yes, sir. And then if it gets more expensive, and just to echo what Deputy Mayor said, was we'd had that same discussion. Let's reach out to people in the community and see if they'll help us, since it's a nonprofit and it's veterans. And yeah, we can work within that, Mayor. And then if we need more, we'll call a special meeting.
Member Loading?
No, it's actually,
No, it's me.
I'm sorry.
But as a GC, I can't imagine you'll find one that's willing to be responsible for that and then start letting non-licensed, non-employees, whatever, come in and start
You're right.
nibbling at the project to save money. I wouldn't be comfortable with that. I wouldn't think any other GC would be either. I think that's probably wishful thinking there.
Any other discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item thus far? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve and with a 20% contingency. So does that mean you're going to change the loan agreement to be 120? To change the loan agreement to be 120? And I would commit to meet if we needed to meet, to address this on a timely manner based on the way the bids come in.
We have a motion to extend
Second.
the loan to 120. We have a second from Councilmember Askew. Member Matheny made the motion. Any other discussion?
I have one last
Go
question.
right ahead.
Is the loan 7 years all or nothing, or is that prorated? If it, for some weird reason, it stays a VFW for 6 years, they have 1/7 of it they owe back, or is it your 7 years or you owe back 100% of the loan?
It's prorated.
By
It-
the day, by the month?
It's, right now, how it's written is that it's prorated by the year. If it needs to break down by months, we can definitely include that in the language as well, but it's prorated by a certain percentage based on the 7-year occupancy and as the VFW.
Okay.
Member Trace?
Same question, so it's fine. Call a question.
Can we just do a voice vote on this, or do we have to have the roll call vote on this?
It's a voice vote.
I think we just do
Voice.
both
It's a
voices.
voice vote.
I think it'd be fine to do.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it carries unanimously now. Brings us to our second item, the St. Cloud Main Street Annual Report. We recognize Paula Stark.
Good evening, members. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to once again stand up here and, espouse everything to you guys. And secondly, for your support all the time with the various projects that we have. And before I start the slideshow presentation, we do have a video that we put together just to kind of lighten it up a little bit instead of the same old things we do. So, Jay?
So I think what we've done here with our developers agreement is really set a standard for mid to larger size developments going forward. Because the developer is going to be responsible for all on-site transportation improvements, including all of the framework work roads. So that schedule is tied to the development program, and what that means is that you can build a certain number of houses, and then you have to start connecting and building the roads and making sure that the transportation infrastructure is going to be there going forward. Now, I failed to say this up front, I should have. Sunbridge is being developed by the same developer that developed Lake Nona. So they know what they're doing, they know high-quality development. And also,
Okay, so that's just a snippet of some of the things that we've done throughout the year. You saw that Central Florida Road Show was on there. We actually had a long segment on that particular portion this year that talked about the murals downtown, the history involved, and it was a 30-minute show that was shown over and over again. And if you haven't gotten a copy, you can let me know, and I can send you a copy of that. Also, the dinner and a documentary, you saw just a snippet of that, but it didn't really show you per se what it was, but some of you did attend that preview at the St. Cloud Twin, and it gave you the whole documentary as we were unveiling our markers and our historic National Registry, which was the Women's Club and the Heritage Museum, and our new mural on the Handyman Hardware. So that was an additional piece that we put together, and we had sponsors to get all of those things done, and they are also available for the city or anyone else to use as promotional materials if you ever need those. So just let us know if you're interested in that. And then we will start with our slideshow. The presentation that we'll be giving you tonight with the values will be as of the end of September, because our fiscal year ends at the same time as yours. So this is our presentation. Our next slide is talking about our mission and vision statement, and I know most of you have seen it so many times you should be able to recite it. Just kidding, because you're not jumping up to do that. And then the next page are our main partners within the community who help support us financially on a consistent basis, and we appreciate all of them. And we do recognize them at our annual meeting that usually is held every year in August. It will be August 22nd this year. Next. These are our events that we do throughout the year. This year we had a couple of extra ones. We obviously do the Breakfast with the Pros, which you saw Commissioner Booth speaking on. And then we do the Historic Dinner and Documentary was previewed last April. Our Redneck Gala obviously is every January. We do ghost tours and historic tours at the monthly market. Our Veterans Dinner, which all of you are very familiar with. This year we added Witches and Maniacs, where we did the German's Witch Dance in front of fire, which turned out to be very successful and looks like it will be a regular event now. We also work with the city on the holiday decorating contest. That's been done virtually. We are able to get a lot more participation that way because we have them submit them to us online, and people get to vote, so that engages the community for a People's Choice Award. We also do Small Business Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so we promote our businesses downtown. That's been hugely successful, is one of the biggest shopping days for our merchants downtown. This past year, we added March to Your Own Story. We will be kicking that off again at the end of May, and that's where we have authors that bring their children's books to life. We put them around downtown in the different business windows. The families can come and read the stories at their leisure, and then at the end of the story time, like a week, this year it's going to be a week, they have a meet and greet with the author in one of our businesses, and Main Street pays the author for 20 books, so we give 20 free books to children. So that has stepped up in our plans this year. From there, we have our projects, which you all are very familiar with since you have to be like involved in having a city flower and a city bird, and we continue to promote those particular pieces. We started this past year with Cloud Cash that you saw several times in the video. We just kicked it off this past month again. Last year, the very first time, it took us 2.5 days that we sold all the vouchers out. This year, it took 2.5 hours. So $10,000 was purchased within that time, and it is now being used in our merchants, and so now they are able to come and redeem those as they're being used downtown. So that's a nice infusion, both for our businesses. Hopefully, our community gets to enjoy someone maybe they haven't tried before because they didn't, or they thought they didn't have the money, and this stretches it. But it also, the community benefits because now they stretch their dollars. So it's been pretty much a win-win. Then I mentioned the walking tours before. That's on the next slide. So we do the historic walking tour. Our Lucius Mitchell camp, they dress in their uniforms, and they lead the historic tour. And then right after that, Jules Davison and Patty Loading, most of the time, leads the ghost tours where they make up stories about the different historic figures that may or may not live in our community. Additionally, we have worked with the city in reference to the entertainment district this past year. Many of you have seen that. That is an ongoing project since we're about halfway through, and we are continuing to assess the situation and how it's working, and we will be coming probably back in front of you again talking about the results of that particular issue. The next slide. Obviously promoting, we do that ongoing. We have about 10,000 followers on our Main Street page, and so we use that on a regular basis, our website, and of course we have the Buy Local page that we do as well, where our merchants can purchase their specials or anything that they want to do about the business on that page on their own. So we have a couple of different areas that we actually utilize to help promote everything downtown. From there, you all are very familiar with our Historic Preservation Initiative. These particular items are the state markers. We now have 7 in our community that Main Street has done the applications for and done the unveilings. These were part of the ones in the dinner and a documentary this year. The cemetery is now recognized with a state marker, as well as Fisk Funeral Home. We also, like I mentioned before, had the National Register designation for the Veterans Library and the Women's Club. So we now have 3 buildings in our downtown area that are on the National Registry. Along with that, we have the grant we applied for last year, where we now have the consultants working on nominating our historic district as a National Registry district. So probably about the end of summer, first part of fall, we should know whether or not that goes through. That we will talk about on a regular basis because there's a lot more information to that. If we are designated, there's things that come to us as a result of that. So we'll be updating you on those items. And this is just another photo to show you the actual marker picture of the Women's Club and Veterans Memorial Library marker, where we unveiled that this year. And Bill, you helped to unveil it. He was the unveiler extraordinaire.
I wouldn't say extraordinary.
And we let him talk too, didn't we, Nathan?
Not long.
Then these are items along the way that we have been kind of instrumental in bringing forward through you all or individually as it relates to the things that have happened. You all know we're now a CLG. That's because we were able to get the historic ordinance put in place. And then from there, the other things that come along with it, we get grant opportunities. So we had the Historic District Inventory Grant that we completed this past year with the consultants that identified in our historic district all of the inventory that actually meets that requirement. So all of that has been made public and is an event that can help with the Historic Preservation Board. They can utilize that as they're going forward, and they're assessing all of the inventory when they come in front of them. And of course, like I said, we have the new grant that we're working on now for the district. The next page is all of our wonderful sponsors who support us throughout the year. I won't read them to you, mostly because I can't see them. So. But there are a lot of them, and we appreciate all of our sponsors, and hopefully they know how much we appreciate them. But if you all happen to see any of them, if you could thank them as well. Since we are partners, it's always nice for them to hear from different people, especially our officials, for the things that they do in the community. Then this past year, we won 2 additional awards at the state level. As you all know, we do have a national and a state conference every year. At our state conference, we are able to apply for up to 5 awards each year. This year, we took the 2 with that addition, and I think some of you were here when we announced it. Loading Gastro Brunch got Business of the Year, and we got, for the St. Cloud Partnership, the retail promotion through Main Street. That put us up to 61 awards over our interim. And there it is, 61 awards over 22 years. Okay, and now I'll put my glasses on for you. So this is our value statement. This is the meat and potatoes of what we want you to realize that actually puts a dollar value on the different things that we do in the projects. So for facade grants, we have utilized $388,000 plus for that. Advertising over the period, $279,674. Technical services project grants, $127,500. Public relations, $191,900. Promotional items, which is basically events that we've put on in 22 years. That's $1,164,970. Then murals, $32,500. Beautification projects, $74,800. Veterans Reflection Garden, $28,800. The marker program, $24,760. And in volunteer hours, $2,927,713. And then this year we added our cloud cash, which is $10,000. So if you add the in-kind, which is other things where people pay for services for us or they allow us to use something that we would have to rent, like a room or something like that, those things we try to track as well. If you add that in, that's $6,224,026. That gives you a 14.9% return on your investment. Next, Jay. And then many of you were at our annual meeting, and these were the award winners that we had this year. Board Member of the Year was Carrie Scott. Supporter of the Year, Ford Insurance. Volunteer of the Year, Lisa Klepper. Merchant of the Year, Z&Q Boutique. Business of the Year, Loading Gastro Brunch. Renovation Project, Fire Brewery and Tavern. Partner of the Year, Rotary of St. Cloud. The President's Award, Andy Picciotto. And the Main Street Legend Award went to Councilman Askew. We don't let him wear the crown, though, so. And then the final piece is, we go by, you are an essential piece, and that means a piece of our puzzle. So this is our puzzle and all the organizations that we deem our partners in supporting our mission and our coordinating projects. So I won't read those to you as well, but those are all the folks that we really like to appreciate, we hope we reach out to, and we hope they reach out to us. And with that, we just want to, again, thank you for your continued support.
And we thank you very much. We certainly appreciate all that Main Street does. I know one of my favorite events is the Veterans Dinner. It's always such a joy to see the appreciation that seems to be in all of their hearts just by having that dinner sponsored for them. And I know that's just one small thing, but it's a big thing. Do we have any other comment?
Well, I have
Councilmember
just
Matheny.
one little commercial, if you don't mind. We have a brand-new event coming up in May. It's called Tablescapes. Miss Loading is here afterwards if you want to talk to her specifically, because she's like spearheading this one. But it is sponsoring tables that get decorated, and then we will have a reception, like a cocktail reception in the evening, where people can vote on their favorite, and whoever has the People's Choice Award will win $250. It is at the Marina Building, so you guys can come on down and enjoy that.
Very
Miss
good.
Matheny?
Yes, thank you so much for your report and your awesome events. I sent an email, I guess it was last week, to the city manager because I was in Winter Park driving around, and I noticed on their street signs, they have a different color street sign, you know, like that says New York Avenue. It's like a navy blue, but they have a peacock on it also. And so I sent it to the city manager. I was like, I think that would be a great idea for the city because, you know, basically all of our street signs are green, which is, and I don't know if this is like the county just does this or this is like a state of Florida thing or whatever, but blue streets mean they're non-maintained in the county. So I don't know if we would want to pick blue as a sign, as a color. That's what the county does. If they're blue, that means they're non-maintained. But I'm like, that'd be kind of neat to have a different color street sign with the name on it to kind of say, you know, I don't know what color that would be, but to kind of be like you're in the city, you know. And then I loved that they had the peacock, which is their city bird, on there as well. So I thought, oh, the
You
crane
could
would be-
alternate your flower and your bird
Yeah,
for different streets.
yeah. So anyway, so I don't know if that's something.
Mr.
that-
Davis loves that idea.
I would personally probably just stick with one, like the crane or something. But anyways, I was like, oh, you know, is that something that we can work on as a CRA to start changing them? And I know they have an expiration on them, you know, like street signs don't last forever. So if that's just something as they get swapped out or as new developments come in, we could make it a city standard that the new developments have to have this sign. You know, we have our project on Pennsylvania, they could start having that street sign on there. I just didn't know what other members thought about it. I just thought it was a nice way to kind of brand the city.
You mean like garnet and gold?
Orange or
No,
blue?
I mean, I would love blue.
Well, that's okay, too.
I would love blue, but, you know, I don't know if that would become a weird thing with non-maintained streets or something, but.
Mr. Sturgeon.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, we had this conversation via email. Great idea. And we're working on the wayfinding for the CRA area. But interestingly, Deputy Mayor, the next council meeting, we have a new sign company to do the street signs, so we can get it taken care of pretty quick. If I'll remind you, put that on the consent agenda. It's on, and just talk about redesigning the signs. So, yeah, but we're doing the wayfinding now, and we'll take that into consideration. The board doesn't have any objection, and we'll do something in the CRA in the downtown area.
Okay, any more questions?
Any other comment?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stark. This time we have a St. Cloud Hotel update. Recognize our city manager,
Yes,
Stark.
thank you, Chairman. Again, if you recall back before Christmas, this board authorized myself and the city attorney to negotiate with Mr. Leica and through his representative, Mr. Huto. And he actually missed his plane because he asked me to take this off the agenda, so if you're so inclined, we'll let him speak. And we couldn't come to agreement on the forgivable loan. And then Mr. Huta came back to me and said, can we go with a grant, like an improved BSIG grant? So we're working through that process. He's attracted some investors. And so I'd let Ms. Stark and him speak for a few minutes and kind of give you his vision. He sent you a pretty lengthy letter at 4 o'clock today, so you didn't have a chance to read it, but just wanted to hear an update and what his vision is. So,
Would you like to speak? Okay. State your name.
Mateo Hodo, H-O-D-O.
I said it right. Good.
I'm doing a lot since our December meeting, and I wanted to update everyone, and I haven't updated everyone, and I haven't kept up even updating staff, and I actually owe you an apology for that. And I've also done my part into the process, but I've done so much to do for the building, and I'm trying and doing my very best in order to complete the whole project for me. And the project is all combined. And I felt that I needed to represent the building for what the building is. And I realized that the renderings that we had created were not in alignment with who the building is, and not a building that's in alignment with your true community. Therefore, I started that whole process of redesigning the building and started a process of getting it historically approved, because I would like to have it nationally recognized in the whole country. So it's been a struggle on so many different levels. It's been a struggle internally to redo that work in order to make it what I would like it to look, what it wants me to portray through me to look. And I'm simply doing my absolute very best to do that. And I'm trying to do a product that will last everyone a really long time. And I'm simply doing my very best to revive the St. Cloud Hotel to what you all deserve. And I need help. And I need help, and I'm against all odds when it comes to this project. I really am. Starting last year, I included pictures and videos so that you can see the struggles that I went through with this project. I was supposed to be done with the roof system, and actually, Bill, you helped me a lot last year when I was doing that roof. It all functioned that well, and it went that fast because you really helped me a lot. And I appreciate that, and I want you to know that. But Albert left me hanging on that. Albert was supposed to pay for that trust package way ahead, but he couldn't. And I knew that the situation was only going to get worse, not better. And that's why I was out there in the middle of June putting in a roof while it was raining every single day. And everybody along the way just ended up one way or another not fulfilling their part. But I did my very best to fulfill my part. The guys that were supposed to do the waterproofing didn't want to come to waterproof it the 3 days that there was no rain. I waterproofed it myself. There's a picture of it there for you. I'm doing my very best to fulfill every part in order to really do the best to this building that I can do, but it seems to be like I'm one man that really cares so much about a structure, because to me it's not a structure. It's a living thing that communicates through me, and people probably don't understand that, but that is my truth. And I'm trying to do my best to honor that within myself, within it, because I know that that energy is much more powerful than anything. And I'm doing this because when I was building my life, and Albert was at the highest point on his life, which I really tried to portray for you in the pictures, he helped me. And if he didn't help me the way that he helped me, When I came down and I looked at how much this was and where this all was, I couldn't leave him hanging. I couldn't leave him hanging because it's a human, honorable thing to help another human when we're in need, okay? And I couldn't say no, but I know that they were way outweighed, but it's okay. It's what it is. It's where he needed the help and there where life was going to bring me for whatever bigger reason. So I did, and I was put against all odds throughout all that. But I saved the building. I want to preserve it right now. And I'm going against all odds, and he keeps promising me, but he can't. He's promising, but he can't. And I know the truth that he can't, but he's too proud to admit it. And he thinks that I'm making him look bad by exposing the truth. But I'm not. I just simply want everybody to know that he is a very wonderful man. He's just not in a good place. And I'm trying to come up with all sorts of different creative ideas in order to make the building preserved and turn it like that for you in a very quick amount of time and for the community. But it's a lot to put together. It's a lot of pieces of the puzzle to put together so that they become win-win for everyone. And I had to do right by the building because I could have very easily taken the turn and actually applied the same facade that was actually approved, but that would have been so wrong for it. Then I would have had to live with that decision and I would have paid the consequences of that decision. And I know it would have come in one way, shape, or form, and there is no doubt in my mind. Zero doubt in my mind. So I appreciate all of your consideration. And I also know that what you granted me and the way that you granted me that faith that you all had in me, that I feel like I've let it down. And I feel like maybe some of you might even think that I may be unprofessional in not communicating or whatever it is. But I did not want to change anybody's heart. If I did that, I apologize. Honestly. I just simply want to see it through, and I want to make it that beautiful. And anything that I'm going to have to do, I will do it, and I know I will. It's just how I do it. It all depends on who is willing to help me. But I'm not going to give up until I achieve that. So it's all up to you. I'm trying to be as transparent about every single thing as I can be. I really am. I want you all to get like a very clear picture of everything. But I can't leave it like that. I honestly can't. It's like leaving another human being that you see. You know what's funny is that when I came here earlier this year to waterproof it, and there was this homeless guy named Steven. And I met him outside the Hunter Arms Hotel, and I brought him inside. And we had a long conversation because he was not in a good place in his life, and I decided to help him. I told Albert to leave him stay at the hotel for 1 month. I told him to hire him as a maintenance man because he had plumbing experience and he really did know his stuff. He had lost his sister and had spiraled him down to become homeless. It was the biggest loss in his life. And I gave him a shot. And then I took him over to the St. Cloud Hotel and I showed him how to continue doing some waterproofing because I was having a hard time balancing everything in my life coming back and forth. And I trusted him and he started doing it. And when I come back later, he had gone back to his old life and he had not done. And I saw him today. I actually was crying earlier today. I thought I let it all out, but I guess not. And when I saw him earlier today, he gave me such a hug. And it is actually that I live my life for.
Mayor, can we get him a couple minutes to compose himself? Sure. You want to take go to the bathroom, wipe your face, take a couple breaths, Mateo?
It's okay. I'm just
Okay.
opening
All
my
right.
heart.
I
I'll be
understand
fine.
that. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine. But we all gotta be there for each other in life, no matter what. I'm sorry, Bill. I am very unprofessional. I don't know how to be professional. I really don't. I only know how to be human. And that is my strength, and that is what gives me life. And being human, it's okay to be whatever. And I'm sorry if I ruined your meeting. I'm just trying to tell you all that I'm trying to do my best to do right by it, by the community, and by the owner, and by your city. Period. And there has no other intention in any way, shape, or form in there besides pure love and truth. Thank you.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate all the passion and the energy that you have certainly put into trying to get this thing completed. Nobody was aware of COVID and the impact it was going to have on Lika's business and everybody else's business, but we certainly appreciate your keeping the iron in the fire, and this project will be completed, and just hang in there, stay with it. Mr. Sturgeon, you have anything else to share?
Yes, sir. I just, like I said, wanted to inform the board, I'd like to get permission to move forward with the reimbursable grant instead of the forgivable loan. Like I said, Mr. Hutto and Mr. Lack have identified some investors that are interested in investing in the property, and we could get their names and letters of commitment from them and then work through that process. So, again, we're shooting for June 2nd, but if we could do it sooner, because we want to get a roof on it to protect the asset. And so.
May I speak one more time, please?
Yes.
I shared it on my letter, but honestly, all I'm trying to do is make it a win-win for all of you. I'm trying to increase its value enough that way somebody can believe in it in order to see it forward. Because if they see that picture of a reality, then they will invest in your community. And you only need one that can actually do it. And it will inspire many, and it will be a ripple effect that will cause that to unfold in so much prosperity in your community that's unmeasurable. Because if you really, really, really think about it deep down, it was really that caused the ripple effect of where you are today. And that ripple effect can change, and it can go at another energy stream, and it can actually cause so much for all of us. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I hate to even bring this up after Mateo's presentation because it sounds like a negative comment, but after reading the email this afternoon, it's brought a couple of issues to my mind. First and foremost, I'm concerned if the city's going to put out a grant or whatever structure we end up with, and then you have investors come in. I'm assuming the investors are looking at the city's money as equity. I just want to make sure we really think about that because we're comfortable with what Mateo and Albert's vision has been and where they wanted to head. But if you start getting other investors in there at some point in time, potentially as it continues to go over budget, not through any fault of anybody's, but just the way the market is and everything else, they keep putting in money. If I'm that investor, every time I put $1 in your project, I'm looking for additional security or an equity position. At some point in time, they potentially lose control of the project. Now all of a sudden we're
That would kill me, Joel. That would really kill me.
I know.
Thank you for noticing
Okay, just
that.
let him finish talking.
But now all of a sudden we're potentially partners with someone we had no intention of ever being partners with. And I don't mean partners in a legal sense, but functionally we're depending on potentially somebody else to come through and finish that with their vision or something else. That really concerns me when I start talking about like that. And I understand that's the reality of their situation, but as a fiduciary, I feel responsible that we look at all the issues in the city funding and that money. Yeah, that's-
No, I'll recognize you in a minute. Mr. Urban?
Yeah, so I definitely appreciate Mateo's passion for this building, and I know I'm the newest person to this board, but I know that this building has been through a lot of challenges, and COVID has just expedited that. But I think I speak for a lot of residents who would love to see just some sort of progress with this building, and at the very least, is there any way to expedite just getting the roof done before the rainy season, the hurricane season starts, using some part of that money that was already committed to this project, or I'm not sure how that would work, but I think that would be a priority to at least get the roof done and parts of the exterior. That would be my only comment.
You're going to have to do the dormers to get the roof done.
Mr. Mateo, you can speak now if you like.
That is something that I've had no choice, Joel. I really have had no choice.
I'm clear.
The other thing is, I can't also make him sell the $2 million in assets that he has, because that's what's keeping him afloat. He can't float without that. He needs the cash flow from that to keep his operations running. He's in that hole. And if I could get that building finished on the outside, and it comes to that point, then he doesn't have to keep so much afloat. He's in a better financial position to where I could make him sell it, because I will know how much closer I'll be to finish. Do you understand? So
Not totally, no.
it's,
The 2 million assets, are you talking about the 100 arms? Or are you talking about this? Because this can't be generating.
no, I also included another file on my email, on my packet, and it's stating all of Albert's $2 million in assets that he owns, that are in the Orlando area, that he owns free and clear. See, he's so lucky that in 2016 he had so much cash flow. He paid cash for everything. So he doesn't owe anything. If he owed something, he was done. He was simply done. And if I didn't come in time, he was gone. And you would have had such a huge can of worms in your neighborhood that nobody would have been able to figure it out. So I came at the right time. I'm opening up my heart to everyone. I'm telling you that I'm doing my very best to provide you the highest quality, even better than Winter Park, Lynette. I promise you.
Okay.
I promise you.
Thank you. Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. So I guess, Bill, I'm kind of lost at what our goal is here. Like, what are we trying to do? You want to go from a reimbursable grant, or you want to go to a reimbursable grant instead of a forgivable loan? That's what
Correct.
the question is?
Correct.
And, okay, and then this is going to sound stupid. You're saying reimbursable grant. They're not reimbursing. It's that we're reimbursing the work.
That's correct. So the way it
So I think
works,
reimbursable grant sounds like they're reimbursing. It's just like the mechanism, though, like it's a grant instead of a loan that would be repaid.
that's correct. Well, so the way it works is his investor would invest into getting the roof and the windows and the facade partially completed, I guess the dormers. And then the grant, once those receipts and the inspections were completed, we would pay that investor back that money.
No.
That's what you told me.
Well, may I speak again, please?
Yes, I'll let you speak one more time. Come on.
All right. Maybe I misunderstood you.
Okay.
I was presented a loan. I was presented a loan with terms that I clearly said I cannot accept. I cannot accept them because I would be bluntly lying to everyone and the whole community if I accepted them and I knew that I can't fulfill them. You know, when I asked you all from the very beginning, I didn't ask you for a price because I didn't want you to put a price on a project like this. This is not a project that you put a price on. This is a project that you put heart on. This is blight. You need light to take out blight. It's not a project that you make the decision from money. So I couldn't accept the loan, and I refused the loan twice. Okay, and then I was told it can be a grant as long as I upfront the money. So that's why I'm looking for investors so that I can make it a grant. I don't know how else to make it a grant. I've never done this before. I haven't gone around, and I just know I'm in desperate need, and I know that this was created for this exact purpose, but I haven't done this process before. I was simply executing before. You give me the work, I execute it, period. I don't know. Any other questions, just feel free to ask me.
So, am I still on my time?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So, I guess my question is, I understand his point about the loan, and I understand our point about, I can't just sign over $300,000 to someone, to anyone, it's not you, it's just, we can't just sign over 300,000 and be like, best of luck, we have to be a steward of
Totally.
the money. So I don't really know another way to do this unless the city wanted to get into holding the contract for construction, which I don't think we want to get into that.
I came up with an idea, a transaction idea that actually,
Well, we need to talk about what we legally can do, as a city, more than an idea, probably. I'm sorry, Mateo, but I don't really know.
what you
I think
can.
I think a grant is the best scenario that we have, and I don't know that there's anything that we could do unless our finance person has another idea.
Member Davis.
I'm concerned about this reimbursable grant. They've got to go to an investor to get the money to front it. An investor wants a return on his money. He clearly, as Mateo said, they're desperate. If I'm that lender, if I'm that investor, I want 15, 18, 20% return on my money. There's a huge risk return that's going to be required there. Now, instead of getting 100% of our dollars for that grant, not necessarily us, the city, the building, Mateo, is going to get 80% of those dollars. I'm not sure, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this, I'm just not sure that him having to find someone to front the money, since it's now no longer them, paying that kind of risk reward to someone for taking it, and it's a huge risk, and then reimbursing them is the best structure, because we're just getting less and less and less for the money. I'm not sure who would want to do that particularly, because they put up the money for the roof. God forbid the plane crashes. Mateo's not here. No one's going to finish that building. I've now got money in a roof in an unfinished building that all I did is bought myself an obligation to put millions of dollars into this thing to finish it, or walk away from my initial investment. I think we got to, if we're going to do it, I think we got to come up with a different structure.
Yes, we
Just
have
my
to
thought.
think outside the box, and we have to kind of work together to think about it.
Mateo, the problem is, there are rules and there are laws that govern how we can disperse CRA funds. And we're trying to be as creative as we can to help you get this project done. But to say here, we're going to make emotional decisions, or we're going to make decisions based on our feelings, we can't do that. So we're trying to say, how can we do this legally and be good fiduciary managers of these funds? We want the building done, but it's, Mr. Davis is raising some incredibly important points. And then we have this obligation, because the last thing we need is some kind of, something to happen because we haven't done this right, and then the state comes down on us, and then we lose our ability to be qualified to even do CRA funds. And CRA funds are under tremendous scrutiny right now all across the state. And that's the reason we have to be very careful and very legal and very right. And we can't make decisions simply based on emotions and feelings.
I understand
So that's important.
I understand that completely, and I'm trying to do my very best to offer
And we
or
understand
come
that.
up with ways to make it a very transparent solution that's a win-win situation for everybody. Now, I did not present that to you, okay? I didn't present that to you because now I'm at a time to where I don't want to get this ball in motion in the middle of rain because it's going to impact the stucco a lot. And I don't want to run in the same situation that I was last year and I'm facing now rain and I'm making something that's going to cost me within that budget and that can alter the quality of the product and that can also alter the time that it gets done. So maybe we can come up with a solution to do it in phases. And that's what Joel, the investor that I found, would charge me 10%, he said. So, and it was it's
Fortunately for you, because I can't imagine anybody doing that. And there's no businessman that I know of is going to lend you that money for 10%.
But he's also guilting cold feet, and I don't want him to get cold feet. And I feel that he's a wonderful human being above all. And I think that if we do this on a trust-to-trust basis, to where we start with projects and make those projects successful, then we can continue forward. So I can break that down and offer that.
Thank you. I'd like Rose Knox, our attorney at this time.
Thank you. So I just wanted to let the board know, and Mateo, you as well, the way that the reimbursable grant reads right now is that the owner or tenant would have to pay all the cost up front. So although there may be an investor that you have that's going to pay these costs, and then you eventually have whatever agreement with the investor to pay them back, you have to pay for all those contracted work. Then you show the receipts showing the payment just for the contracted work, not anything to do with the investors, and then you get reimbursed based on what that receipt is. That's what's in the agreement right now if you were to do the reimbursable grant. So if that's what was taken, I don't think that there would be an investor issue because the CRA doesn't have to be involved with the investors. So I just wanted to let you know that part, if I was understanding your comments correctly.
I think he was talking more about the value of the dollar than.
Member Davis.
And that's exactly what I was trying to set in motion too.
Can we hear from Ms. Collazo?
Thank you.
Wendy Collazo, Finance Director. So if I may bring this back, I think for facts and the business side of everything, the objectified, as the mayor stated, CRA does have requirements that we can't go outside the box, simply enough. One, when this project initially started, you got to remember these 300,000 are excess of reserves. So you will now tap into operational money that they don't, the CRA does not have because it has a certain TIF threshold and we have reached it. So you will sacrifice operations if any additional money. This is your reserve money from the future, or you need to cut something else because we don't have space to give it. Where are we going to get it? One. Two, we did look into, initially when the loan comments were coming out and everything, we did look at solvency, and unfortunately, capital and what they needed in order to secure, they don't have it. They don't have a good rating in the Better Business Bureau. There's a flight risk, and we are not in the business of loan issuing either. The grant reimbursement process, how it happens, Mateo and his group, we are the fiduciaries of the residents of St. Cloud and that money for the CRA. What transactions and dealings they have outside of that and how they get the cash, not our concern, but it is our concern to make sure that we cannot fork out $300,000 on a hope and a prayer, because we have to answer to those residents and they have to see a structure. So one question that you could pose, is the CRA the place to start this investment? Do you need to make this a project of a city because it's an important piece to your city and maybe a capital project? That may be a question to find other funding sources. And then is the contractor and who you have in place capable and able of completing the job with the funding for the certain phases that you want? So funding sources can be available depending on what you'd like to do, but that constraint of the CRA is a big, big factor. When they go and apply, if they go through the grant reimbursement process, that is exactly what it means, is that we will reimburse any cost that they put towards it. And that's because we need to ensure the security of revenue of the CRA. We need to make sure that if any resident here wants to know what we did with $300,000, we can show receipts of what was presented, and we just didn't give a blank check. Because, again, we don't do that with any grant award that we do here for community grants. The CRA, we request all expenditures and documentation for that. Anything else I can answer?
Thank you. Mr. Sturgeon, you have anything else for us?
No, Mayor, I do not.
Member Trace?
Thank you. I do appreciate the passion for the project. I think it's something that is definitely needed, necessary in downtown to have a nice hotel. My worry is just even the BSIG program, I feel like we'd have to forget about or strike through about half the requirements for that BSIG program to even make that make sense. So we can't make the forgivable loan or the grant make sense. We can't make the BSIG make sense. So I just try to fit a square peg in a round hole. My worry with, I think it's great bringing in another investor into this because, that's kind of what's necessary to make this happen. I don't think that the city or the CRA is the right investor for this type of project. My worry is that they're going to go out to investor pool without a budget, without a plan, without a pro forma, try to get some money. This is actually just going to, a hotel without dedicated parking is kind of difficult to make sense because you come into town, you don't want to have to deal with finding a parking spot, walking half a mile down to, it just doesn't make sense. So I have a feeling this is just going to turn into apartments if you bring in an investor and they just need to make money on the deal. So I don't even know if it's going to fulfill what we want for downtown. That's kind of my worries, and I said all the other stuff about, I feel unless someone brings a full budget with a full plan and full pro forma of how this thing's going to make sense, I don't want to put a dollar into it because it's like a boat is a hole. What is that? A boat is a hole in the water that you throw money into. I mean, it's kind of feels like the same thing.
Mr. Sturgeon?
Yes, Mayor, then I would propose, I like the direction that Mr. Trace is going in, that I go back to the drawing board with Mateo and Albert and come back with a plan and a pro forma. And that'll give him some time. In fact, my only concern is what Mr. Urban said is about the roof. And like I said, I've shared this with several board members. My property is the first thing I do. When I buy a property, I replace the roof, and it's just to protect the asset. So if the board would do that, we could put this on hold and come back. And I think by June, we should be able to work on something to come back with a full plan.
I looked through proposals, a bunch of stuff. It looked like there was 150,000 from Nations, 92,000 from Hilo. There was this Limeworks thing. Like, what's the cost to put the roof on and at least board up the windows, or you can waterproof seal like you don't have to put in the windows. We don't have to buy the windows. We just have to seal it off.
Correct. I signed the contract with the roof, and I actually included that in the email.
Was that the 150,000 with Nations?
No, that was the 92 with
Hilo. Okay.
That was the 92 with Hilo.
Okay.
Nations was the first one. Nations has been the one that I've been considering all along, and you will see all of the quotes that I had from Nations since last year in August, okay? And until I was referred to this gentleman that I hired that came and quoted it. And the difference between the two is this. Nations was not guaranteeing the underlayment that's there, so they were going to tin tag it. It's called, they put a layer of rubber, and they put big, kind of like, I can't even think of the name right now, but you put a nail with a big washer, and it holds it down because they're not guaranteeing that will stick. So then they have to do another layer of peel and stick on top of that. And then the other company is not doing that. They said that they called the company, and as long as it's adhered to the decking and it's not coming off the decking, then you're okay to go over it. So they're going to go over it and guarantee the underlayment and the roof system, which was important to me. It's the same. The metal is a little different. They're both from a Florida company on the metal. This one is 30-year guaranteed on the actual metal, the system, and the color fade. So I thought for the savings that it gave, and if they guarantee it, and that's what we can afford in a worst-case scenario at this moment, I went with that. The other reason why I was going with Nations Roof is because Nations Roof is the largest in the country, and if there was any issues and I was using any of the community money, I wanted somebody that I could go after. I'm using Anderson windows, and I'm getting them from St. Cloud Home Depot. And the actual quote that you have, they're all rough sized and everything. They're like ready to go in, like ready to order. It's ready to make the payment and it's ordered. And they now, this whole time that I've been talking to them, the windows have been like 6 months out. All of a sudden, they're 45 days out. They're too, like now they're too soon. They're coming to me too soon, and I don't know what to do with them. So it's insane, the world right now, honestly. But Aldi World Walls and Ceilings is the other company. It's the plaster company that's there. Okay, they have won 3 historic preservation awards on restoring historic buildings. And they discovered that the building is actually made with lime brick and lime mortar. The way that it was engineered and the way that it was actually proposed on the Historic Preservation Board for last one, it was doing it through a mesh system and mechanically fastening to this, but that won't work with this brick. It will fail. It will literally fail. So what they're going to do is they're going to strip with the layer that's on the outside. Then they're going to really see what's going on inside, because they feel like there is a particular reason why somebody sprayed this. Anyway, they don't want to. They want to do it right, and it needs to be done right because it's a historic building, and it's the last part of it that is like such a difficult part. Everything with it will have struggles, everything, but it's one step closer. Like the structure is done, the facade can be done, and then once the MEPs are done, then we're sailing from that. And I think that we still have a chance to do it.
All right, thank you. Member Davis.
I'm fine.
Member Askew.
So it sounds like you're signing on this loan, understanding the rules to the CRA. Can we say that you can't start a project before you get approval to get paid for it? Can we say that he signed the contract? Can we say that that's a part of the project that we're trying to get through this? I'm afraid that he's going to sign the contract with them. Our CRA states that you can't start your project and get the thing going without approval from the CRA. I'm scared that this is going to happen and he's going to come back in June and go, well, you already started the project. You know, we can't give you any reimbursement. It's happened before. I just want to make sure that the board understands that, or from council, do we need to address that, or at least say that he brought it forward? We agree that the quote for 92 something for the roof is okay. Move forward. We're not giving you any money until you guys address the city manager and the attorneys and figure out what kind of contract and what kind of grant we're going to do. But I'm scared that we're going to get stuck in a hole, and he's just said he signed a contract. We didn't approve any monies for that. We did before, but that was under a different way we were going to take care of it. So I'm just throwing that out there. Just how do we do this where he shows up in June and the roof's on, but we can't give you any money because you didn't get it approved before the process started.
I'm sorry.
Antoinette Forbes, Economic Development Manager. I think Board Member Askew hit exactly one of the things I wanted to address, because we're talking about a lot of different options. But as it relates specifically to them qualifying under the Building Site Improvement Grant, there's a couple of things that need to be noted. Yes, they have to have board, based on that amount, they have to have board approval before they start any work. Also part of that grant application, they have to have a certain amount of quotes with it. So just because they have a vendor that they would like to use does not mean that is the only documentation that's required. Also part of that grant application, there has to be an owner's authorization that says that they are in agreement with the terms of that grant. So not quite sure where that is in the process, but the owner has to also commit to be receiving those funds and be in compliance with the policies and procedures of the BSIG.
To be open for record, I had lunch with Mateo and some other folks, but that's the one in concern. That worries me. I know we have some stipulations in there. What's the way that we can say that you can move forward? It needs to have a roof on there. We can't wait to June 2nd for a roof. That thing's going to get, it's going to have become problematic. It's not going to be $100,000 if we let that thing sit there like that. It's going to be $400,000 because the inside's going to get destroyed. So we need to make some kind of something. If we don't want to deal with this, I get it. I want to deal with it because I think that that's a savable building, that is an icon of this town. It's been here way longer than all of us. I'm not going to get emotional about all that stuff, but I just want to be able to how do we move forward and get the roof on? I mean, that's the key. We know what the price is. You're saying we can't do that without 3 quotes. We've had quotes before. He didn't do a meeting in February. One of the quotes fell off. So there's challenges that we have with our meetings. There's challenges he's having even getting a quote. Can we hash that out before we leave this meeting tonight? Because I would really like to be able to save that thing.
So I can respond to you as far as what the current policy states. I cannot advise you on how you decide you'd want to waive any of those policies. But your current policy that was adopted says that they are required to get a minimum of 3 quotes. They also need to submit the application. It needs to go before you for approval. If there were previous quotes, our office has not received those to compare them. We have not received any form of application to even present to you at this point. I don't think there's any reason that if they were to give that documentation to us immediately, that we could not come back at an earlier time for you to review it. But as it stands, the way your current policy has been adopted, they have not met those requirements.
Member Davis. Is there some way we can, I kind of agree the roof needs to get done. If there's some way the city funds that $100,000+, that the city's equity or money into that is protected, can we place a municipal lien or something like that on the building for that amount? So if, God forbid, something happens somewhere down the road, we recoup the taxpayers' money. The intent of this thing is we put up $300,000 and over time the CRA gets more than that back through increased tax revenues. But if it doesn't ever get finished, there is no increased tax revenues and the taxpayers don't recoup their money. If I was making this loan personally and I make a bad decision, won't be the first one I've made, probably won't be the last one. But this isn't our money. I feel like we have to be 10 times more careful than if it was my personal money.
Do you have anything else to add to that?
No.
Wendy?
For the question about the funding, just to make you advise, based on the Florida statute for the CRA, we are not allowed to front money, that is CRA, for projects based on the statute for the liability and the increased risk.
I wasn't saying that. If he went ahead and put the roof on,
Yes,
and he came and brought us the bill, at this moment, and with our rules, he can't bring us that bill. We're not going to pay that bill. I'm asking, how do we work this out where he can continue on, do the roof? We've been noticed. We don't have 3 quotes. I don't know how many quotes we have, but I know at least of 2. So how do we move? It seems like nothing's going to happen tonight. We're going to wait until June 2nd to approve his roof, and then we can talk about reimbursement, whatever direction we're heading. Does that seem like the direction we're heading in?
By then, it'll be July or August before the work starts.
Right.
Potentially.
I have a question for Wendy. Is there another source of money, like CDBG dollars, that are available that we could use to pay for the roof?
I'm going to lightly say yes, okay? However, your policies and procedures, okay, they have to follow the same thing. Because now you're dealing with federal funds, so we have to follow the circular CFR 2, okay, to speak educatively about time frame. Your person who's doing this job, who needs to get a roof, and, correct me if I'm wrong, had quotes presented over a year ago, okay? In the meantime, asking for money, we approved the $300,000 from funding months ago. To this date, Grants is under, at this time, finance. We have received no application, no updated quotes, right? Don't have visibility of the current quotes. If that package were to be submitted, it would be my due diligence, I can promise this board, that we would execute it as quickly as possible to vet it, because funding is there and ready to go. That has not been done, sir, and I think that is a big factor of this, because it's not the city holding up. We have funding in place, 300,000 of it. And I think quotes and everything, I'm not sure what that would entail, you know what I mean, for the vendor now to go back. But we don't have nothing in front of us that we've been able to even vet to tell you, like, hey, June 2nd is not possible, because I think the council here, or committee, excuse me, is really open to get this through. The priority is a roof, and I think, but we don't even have something submitted and quotes. And so if in the back end things have been happening, like getting estimates and things, there has, and from Mr. Mateo's comment, has not been communication with his liaisons here. So we need that bridge here so that we can at least give you a good answer, because I think we can get follow through and get it quickly done. It's happening everywhere, and we're still being able to construct and do, right? 7.7 inflation, we have 20% in raw material costs. We're phasing, we're doing it, it's possible. But I just want to lay those facts out to you so you have a good picture, because, you know, we wanted you to reach your objectives as well, that we understand the objectives of this committee. So.
Member Askew?
Thank you. You don't need to go anywhere. That was, first of all, that was fantastic. That was exactly what we're looking for. Instead of just going, oh, we can't do it, you're going, okay, we're open to an idea. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm like, is there some way of, if he does his due diligence and comes to you all and starts communicating a little bit better, it sounds like, that we can start moving along with the project. And we know what it needs, and I don't want to do anything wrong with the CRA. We're being looked at enough. We don't need any more of that. So thank you for that, and I would assume, does the rest of the, I mean, if he goes ahead and puts a roof on before we show up, can that even be funded? Or is that, I think you all need to communicate a little bit better, it sounds like.
I think so, and I think he needs to understand, and we can walk him through. I mean, you know, a grants administrator, they will walk and sit down with him through the application process along with the department. I don't know about capital needs and whether he could front 93,000, which seems that he's looking for that. So I want to be very clear. He has to have his portion and do his due diligence and have funding to bring receipts, right, to present, because I can't, even if I wanted to. CDBG, optional funding, he'd have to do the same thing, and he'd have more stipulations that, you know, we couldn't. But with, you know, we work with grants, the departments, procurement, you know, whatever we need to do. We'll walk them through, give them classes, sit down. I'll personally sit there, you know, but we need those things to happen.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you, Mayor.
Member Davis?
I'm fine, thank you.
Member Loading?
Is there some way that, as a board, we can approve and give the city manager, you know, X amount of leeway on X amount of dollars to push that along?
I think we did.
We've done that.
Well, that's what I'm saying on that, is that's where we're at on that.
Yeah, except they have to switch the process that they're going to pay. That's the part that's the stickler at this point.
Okay.
Mr. Sturgeon?
I think Member Matheny.
Well, you had yours on load first.
She outranks me, Mayor.
Ms. Matheny?
Well, I was just gonna say, I like Dwight's idea, and, I mean, that happens on the county commission all the time, that the board approves and delegates the authority to the city manager to execute the documents. So is that kind of what you're talking about? Like, so that if he is able to get all of his ducks in a row, and it gets through the process, and everybody blesses it, like, it doesn't have to come back here, that the city manager could execute it.
But don't we have to give him some direction on what process we want him to approve?
Well, it
Because right
sounds
now-
like the loan is off the table. Sounds like it's a grant that's reimbursable.
Right.
I mean, from what Mr. Hodu said. I mean, I would be comfortable with that, just delegating it to the city manager so that in the essence of time, efficiency, good governance, all that good stuff, like, we could just move it forward. So we've already okayed the 300. I mean, it's just basically the format.
You know, that's my confusion, if it's confusion. We've approved $300,000. You got to go through them. You got to jump through their hoops. If you don't jump through their hoops, the deal's done.
I understand.
Because it's what the law says.
I totally
And
understand.
we can't, no matter how much we love that building and love you and want to get that done, if you don't jump through those hoops and meet the conditions that the law says, we're done.
But I can't because he's been doing his best
Okay.
and I've been doing my
To me,
best
there's
to tell
nothing else
him
for us to talk about.
that I can't accept the loan. Like I can't.
Then we're done.
So why would I even waste their time if I can't accept the loan?
Yeah, we're not doing the loan.
Okay, so that was why I didn't even bother sending anything to them. Why? Because I cannot go through this first loop. It's not even worth me trying the process.
The reason it became a loan deal was because we were trying to help you, and the city manager was trying to help accommodate to get this done, but we're telling you, this is where we're at. The money's been approved. You gotta get with this team here and say, and they'll tell you what you gotta do. If you can't do it, get with the city manager. We're authorizing him to help you work through this, but you gotta do it according to what the rules are.
Yes.
Got it?
Got it. But I also want to remind you all one more thing, please. You are the board. You are the council, okay? So the rules, the guidelines are the guidelines, but you have power of authority to actually set special guidelines. And what I'm trying to tell you is that this is a special consideration project in any means. And I am going to get look, I can have the investor committed. He wants to know that the grant is committed, he gets committed, I showed that proof, and then I can move forward, and I can get it done.
Mr. Davis.
Just to clarify a point, we are the board, but I can assure you there's no one on this board that's going to vote to do anything that's not legal or even questionably not legal. I mean, we've got some leeway that we can change maybe a little bit of this or that, but there are some hard and fast guidelines and rules that nobody up here is going to subject themselves to whatever the consequences would be by overriding those rules. Nobody's going to do
But
it.
I don't think that anybody is doing anything legal. I mean illegal.
Well, it depends on how this, nobody at this point, but nothing's getting done. I mean, it depends on how this proceeds.
It's not getting done because we're not coming into agreement on how it's getting done.
You got something?
I want to call a question.
We don't have a motion.
Well,
we?
let's do it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I feel like we're going in
Here's the
circles
issue.
here.
You need to get with Mr. Sturgeon, get with the staff here, and they'll walk you through what can be done. If there's any creativity that can be done legally, will you help accomplish that objective?
Yes, sir, I will.
And so we're done,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
We want to help you with that project, but you got to do it right, the right way. Can we move on?
Mayor, do we need to do anything to give the city manager authority to work the documents and execute them? You know, give him authority to move things forward if all the ducks are in a row and staff is in support? And is there something we need to do to give him approval?
Legal review.
What's that?
I said in a legal review by the city attorneys.
Absolutely.
Is that, I mean, do we need a motion
Are
for
we in
that? Are
agreement that
are we
whatever
all
he needs to do,
agreed?
we've given him the authority to legally do that? But it's illegal, mostly it's legal stuff. You
But
gotta
I
get
just
done
don't want
anyway.
him to bring it back for us to agree to a document. If we can delegate that authority that he can execute it.
If it can legally be done?
Yeah.
Sure, bring it on.
Yeah, if you want to make a motion to allow the
All
city
right.
manager and specify the terms as long as it's approved by the
Sure.
city attorney.
So I'll make a motion that we delegate the authority to rework all this paperwork into whatever format, whether it be a loan or whether it be a grant that's reimbursable, after the applicant has done every single thing that the city needs and gone through all the departments, got all the blessings, the legal department has blessed it, everybody's good to go, that the city manager has the authority to execute the documents. It doesn't have to come back to us.
Second.
We have a motion from Matheny, second from Askew.
And that's a BSIG? Or what is the agreement? Is it, it's not the loan anymore, what is it?
I think it's a grant that's reimbursable.
If it's a BSIG, it has federal funds in it, right?
No.
No,
No.
not the BSIG, that's the CDBG.
Okay, all right. Because then that's going to subject them to
We'll hand out
certified
that list
payroll
another
and on
time.
and on
Right,
and on.
they're saying that's worse.
Right, that's gonna be a lot harder.
Yeah.
So either the grant that's reimbursable or the loan, and working through all of the issues with that.
And we've already stated the amount.
Up to.
Exactly, okay.
Up to. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
I think I'm gonna end that process right now, though, because I can't accept the 300,000.
Then
Okay.
It's done deal then.
Right now, I can't, because I can't do, what am I gonna do with the rest of the building?
But you need to get
I'm
a-
gonna scrap together a roof.
But you need to put a roof on it, right?
I'm gonna scrap together the roof.
And so that at least that buys you some time.
I
300,000
just
is,
don't wanna use any community money, and then the community is gonna be after me like, why? Where is the building going? Why aren't you doing it?
there
As of
already
right
are.
now, the community loves me. And I don't want them to think that I use their money for
If
just-
you don't put a roof on that building, you're gonna be a very bad guy. When you
I'm
get-
gonna
when
put
you
a
got
roof
the
on the
means to do
building. I'm
that.
gonna put a roof on the
So
building,
you need
even
to
if I
take care of
borrow
it.
from my own father for the 5th time.
Okay,
Okay, I am. That's how I am doing it.
and we're just trying to help, okay?
Well, then you should do that and then come back to, for the reimbursable grant and not bring that investor in.
Can I come back to you for the reimbursable grant for the windows and the plaster? Because I really need help with those, and those are both very important, and those are both huge parts of this project.
We have no idea because we don't know what the budget is totally on that. That stuff's changing.
You'll
by the
have to
day.
work with the staff, and they'll tell you what you can do and what you can't do. It's a legal issue. Yes,
I was just going to say, I believe a motion was already.
yes.
and
Could we read
second,
the
so-
motion, please?
My motion was, I'll just paraphrase it, I don't know if we got, if Ms. Rivas is typing it that quickly, but it was just so that we're delegating authority to the city manager, that if the owner is able to work through all of the issues that the city has, the attorneys bless it, everybody's happy, then we're giving him the authority to execute the documents and not come back to us, whether it's the grant that's reimbursable or a loan. And if the applicant doesn't move forward with it, well, then it's a
Can we-
non-issue.
Can we
Yes.
put a time frame on that? I don't want to just leave it open-ended for ever and ever.
Sure, 3 months?
I'm just asking for a time frame. I don't know what it is, but I don't want to just be whenever.
For 3 months, I think that should be able to work this thing out.
Back to you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to speak to that item?
I apologize. I just want to bring a couple things to your attention that really is unrelated to your process. From the historic preservation part of it, this is going to be on the Historic Preservation Board agenda for Tuesday evening. There have been meetings with the state. The letter that you got passed around talks to the things that they'll approve as it relates to the historic significance. And the Historic Preservation Board Tuesday night, we'll have to look at that as well. But those things have been moving forward and being approved and vetted as far as the historic significance and the materials and those kinds of things, just so you are aware of that.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
And we have one opposition. With this, we'll move on to our CRA annual report. Ms. Forbes.
All right, let's take a deep breath here. So, I wanted to present to you our annual report. It's required by the state every year that we submit one of our accomplishments, mostly fiscal responsibilities, but we always like to give more than is what required and tell them some of the programs that we use the funding for. It's required by March 31st of each year. We've already submitted it to both the county manager's office, the property appraiser's office, and other required entities. This year, we did change the format a little bit, and instead, we decided to do a superhero theme, and the villain was COVID. And we have the CRA being the superhero of our story. I'm going to skip through some of the preliminary information because you know about it already, but the things that we accomplished last year was the adoption of our 5-year strategic financing and implementation plan, say that fast 5 times, as well as the hotel feasibility study, which, as you know, recommended 125 key hotel within the downtown. We are now using that study in order to market it to potential hoteliers. Part of our superpowers we listed was some of the programming that we set up that was adopted. Some of it was new, adopted by this board, which was our business tax receipt grant program. That one was ideally set in mind for our pop-ups at the monthly market, but we've actually been able to expand it to other outside of the downtown CRA as well. And then we also included the CDBG/CV, which stands for COVID, Small Business Grant Program, which was funded by CDBG funds, but there were businesses within the CRA that received that funding, as well as the Sidewalk Cafe Furniture Grant was designed exactly for the downtown in order to encourage outdoor furniture and outdoor dining, rather. The Special Event Grant, which we wanted to create more traction downtown, which is why we created that. And then, of course, the Building Site Improvement Grant. We also included the Paint, Plant, Pave program, which we have opened in, I think, February, January 31st of this year, but it was adopted last year. We've already started receiving and vetting applications and should have our first one out, I believe, this month, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, the Entertainment District Amendment. As you can see, we have already started to foil the villain of COVID. We also did our Business Walk campaign, which is where we set aside quarterly time to meet with our businesses one-on-one and include local businesses to talk about what needs they have and how we can connect them. We did that this year. One of our business walks was specifically with CRA businesses. We had the Growth Wheel program. That's when we partnered with UCF Business Incubator, as well as the City of Kissimmee to offer one-on-one technical assistance at no cost to help them pivot their business during COVID, so they'll learn how to keep business longevity in the wake of even a pandemic. We also offered educational webinars, which was sponsored by the CRA in conjunction with the SBA, with categories such as international trade, marketing 2.0, and then, of course, we had our annual business survey that we send out. And in order to entice people to participate in that survey from businesses, we offer them, like the first 50 respondents, $10 gift cards to our local businesses. Our Justice League, AKA the St. Cloud Police, which of course is a significant part of our budget, was also featured in our annual report, and we talked about how the amendment to the entertainment district caused an increased need for police presence, as well as the officers are either CPTED certified or CPTED in training, which is crime prevention through environmental design. We also talked about our alliances. So our partnership with Ola at the Park, and we had our first event at the Lakefront Park, but we utilized the parking that was available within CRA in order to shuttle people back and forth between the lakefront. We also sponsored a summer youth internship program where we were able to hire, through CareerSource, 23 St. Cloud students in St. Cloud businesses for the summer, and they also received not just a paycheck, but they also were able to set up their own bank accounts with a $50 starting $50 starting check. And then, of course, our partnership with St. Cloud Main Street. We also celebrated Small Business Saturday with Elf in the Cloud, who we nicknamed Tinsel. And we did a social media campaign where we featured him in different St. Cloud businesses to help people to promote Shop Local. Our downtown monthly market continues to be a success and growing, which also brought out the Downtown Steps Litter Abatement Program, which don't ask what STEP stands for, but it is an acronym, where city staff now volunteers twice a week, every week, to go out and help Public Works keep the streets clean. We also talked about our goals for the upcoming year. So we talked about identifying opportunities for parking. We talked about creating more promotional marketing material, which we've already started with our our, what's the word I'm looking for, vendor, RMA, as well as we've partnered with our PIO in order to create a program that goes in conjunction with our rebranding campaign. Let's see, anything else? Of course, downtown Phase 2 will be beginning soon. We're also looking at revamping our website as well. So that's just a really quick look of all the stuff that we've had going on in our CRA, and I am available for any questions.
That's a lot. You've been doing an incredible job, that's for sure. Do we have any questions? Member Askew.
The monthly market's fantastic. You guys are doing a great job of that. I saw Joe Etter this morning cleaning up during my walk this morning. Those guys are down there. It's very interesting to see staff helping and cleaning up and very engaged with the people that are down there. So I appreciate everything you're doing, and you're just taking the CRA and making it a notch higher. So I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Incredible job. At this point, we have our bi-monthly financials. Ms. Colazo.
Wendy Colazo, Finance Director. All right. So this is your financial statement review for fiscal year 21-22 up to the March 31st, 2022 date. On this first slide is a review of your current revenue and/or other sources and its actual performance through the fiscal year, October through March. As you can see, the BOCC, Osceola County TIF, has already been collected at 1.1. Operating interest, we had a reduction of $26,150. And that is the economic downturn right now with interest rates going where they are, and we are mitigating that as best as we can at this point. In the interfund transfer, this is the monthly transfer coming in from the general fund, $137,166, totally appropriated for this period at $1,000,002. We have $38,000 of left in for the fiscal year to correct and collect in operating interest. Remember that the actual performance of operating interest is just booked for the month and is not realized just yet. So that should even out. We'll net out and always tend to come out ahead. So no need to freak out just yet. We're not there. And then $442,012 in interfund transfer is left to be booked into, and that will be at a monthly interval. Moving on, your expenditures and other sources. The categories listed here have been grouped into personnel, operating, capital outlay, grant and aid, and then any other uses. Total budgeted for this fiscal year is $2.8 million. Expended from the period that we are reporting is $938,305. The expended through the year, $84,000 for March up to March, is personnel, $65,626 in operating, $70,079 in capital aid grants and aids, capital outlay, grants and aids, and then any other uses, $718,534. And if you're asking what that is the contribution of the CRA for the parking structure that we've allocated into the expenditure line. We have $1.9 million left in balance of expenditures, so we are well under pace, which is an okay thing to do in expenditures. And that is the report up to March 31st, 2022. If you have any other questions, I can answer for you.
Do we have any discussion or questions? Councilmember Trace.
Quick question, the $300,000 we just spent the last hour talking about, where is that shown in here?
That is your reserve. It's already in expenditures. It showed the reporting period when we allocated it, which was, we did it in, well, as of September 30th, 2021.
So that's showing in reserves?
In reserves, which is not here. These are your capital outlays, grants, and operating and personnel.
Well, I got the P&L from the,
Yes,
would it
well-
show up on the P&L?
No, will not.
Okay.
No, because it wasn't an actual expenditure just yet.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Would you want it show somewhere?
It'd be kind of nice to see what buckets we, like the parking garage thing that happened this
This
quarter,
period, yes,
this
sir.
period.
This-
So we see it now, but we won't see it
Correct.
in the future report. So it'd be nice to see kind of the buckets we're putting,
Sure.
stashing away money.
If the committee would like to see that, we can show you pending reserves and what you've allocated those projects to. Yep, because you'll see actual expenditures when they start occurring per period.
Well, and then it'd be nice to show, so for the parking garage itself, $718,000 we budgeted, so once we start spending it, it'd be nice to see kind of, we
Yes.
budgeted that and then we spend.
Yes, absolutely, we can do that.
Member Davis?
How is it we're running so far below a proportional, like on the expenses, the personnel, the accounting, we're approximately 50% through the fiscal year, and we're way below 50% of expenditures.
Sure. The reason is because if you notice on your revenue P&L, you see the prior year fund balance is budgeted at $1,175,000, so you have more room to spend. But we never spend that because we've never had to use prior year fund balance as an actual expenditure. We've never gone over budget. So if I were to, this was a request from the last meeting where prior year fund balance, you wanted it displayed and open because we used to categorize it and not display it. But it's only a budgeted amount, so we're not actually, we have $1.1 million of additional dollars budgetarily that you could spend, so it makes it look like we have, because whatever I do the revenue, I have to do to expenditure. So if I add $1.1 million to rev from prior year fund balance, I've given you 1.1 in expenditures, which we're never gonna expend, so that's why we look like we're behind.
Okay, I guess I don't completely follow, though. Why wouldn't the personnel and operating be more of a real number? We're at about 150 for the total. Oh, no, not, yeah. Year to date, 150, call it. So, and we've got $1.3 million-ish in those two line items. It seems like it makes it very difficult to honestly figure out whether we're ahead or behind schedule when the budgeted item is not, has nothing to do with reality.
Correct. So this was a request, when you guys put it in, and this is why I cautioned putting this, because prior fund balance, you are absolutely correct, it's not real, it's a budgetary tool, right? So if I were to remove it now, then your budget expenditures goes down, and it's now your operating expenses and O&E right now that you're seeing reported horizontally are actual and correct, right? So you could see 59,000 to this date, right, on salaries and wages, 155 budgeted, 59,000 up to this date, times 6 months. We're at pace to not go over, but end right there. We're gonna end with about 20% left over of budget. So what I can do is remove this prior year fund balance so that expenditure budget is real, right? And you're just getting actual performance to the budgeted amounts for each GL versus the budget tool that we use of prior year.
Right.
So that, I could do that too. I just forewarned last time and.
I'm just one person, but I'd rather see that, because this is, I look at this and my first blush at it, I'm like, holy cow, we're fantastic. We're using a small fraction, but that's not reality.
No, and it's a budgetary tool that we've always used, but like I said, last meeting, I was requested to put it on there because we used to hide it to not cause confusion. You know what I mean? But we displayed it like you want, so your call on that, however you want that displayed.
Can't we have it as a separate line item?
You can. I mean, I can extract it from the P&L, so whatever's, feasible for you all.
I mean, then we can see, okay, we know, okay, that's kind of a flow-through item, but here's the real budgeted expenses for these other items.
Sure. I mean, I can even offer an extra step where we can put that separately prior year fund balance, right? So because we're not using it.
Right.
And then to add, we can give you some performance measures. Now you can have your budgeted year-to-date, and I will give you burn rate. And you could see that you're at 20% of burn.
Right.
Whatever you're going, I could do that as well to give you more information.
Okay.
Okay.
That'd make it easier than running in my head, but sure.
Sure.
Either way.
Okay.
I assume we have a consensus on that?
Okay.
Make it easier. All right, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Davis?
No.
Any other questions, comment? Well, Ms. Collazo, you always do an incredible job. Thank you.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you. I didn't use any military term. Member Davis, do you have an update for us?
No, Mayor, I have nothing this evening.
Member Loading.
Nothing this evening.
Member Trace. Member Askew. Member Irvin.
Nothing for me.
Member Matheny.
I just want to ask, several meetings ago, Member Askew asked us to reach out to the county to see if they would extend the terms of our CRA. Do we have an update on that?
Yes.
with you? Okay.
At the end of March, I had a meeting with Beth Knight and proffered that idea to them. They are in the process of reviewing our strategic plan that was just approved by this board. I had a conversation Tuesday with the county manager, and they're open to doing that. They want to put some criteria in there that it has to meet capital needs. They really don't want to use it for policing, and so they're talking, they would extend that based on certain capital needs of the city and for debt service. So we don't know what that looks like yet. He's still thinking what he wants to, criteria he wants to do.
Have anybody in staff run an analysis of what the city would get for the real CRA, the tax increment funding that the county originally contracted for versus the flat rate that they just give us now? Would we be ahead or behind or?
I see what you're saying, is because we have the agreement, this set amount versus what a TIF would look like. Okay, no, but I could ask finance to do that, if we could do an analysis, and I'll commit to having that done by June.
Because as I remember, that agreement was actually
Yes,
set up
sir.
as them to fund, I'm throwing out numbers, I don't remember exactly, but 50% of the TIF, but they've never, that would have been nothing forever. But now it's coming up, maybe the real calculation of the TIF is more money than just, but, you know, and they may or may not be interested in doing that, but it'd be interesting to know what that number is.
If there's no objection from the board, I'll commit to doing that for next, and then you can see what that looks like, and then hopefully by then I'll have at least a draft agreement that we can bring back.
Is there any objection? No. Think we have a consensus on that? You have anything else for us, Mr. Stewart?
No, sir, thank you.
Ms. Matheny, were you through?
That was it.
Okay.
That was it.
And I do not have anything. At this time, we'll receive any public comment that anyone might like to make. Seeing there is none, would like to make you aware that our next CRA meeting is currently scheduled for Thursday, June the 2nd. With that, there is no other items on our agenda. We will be adjourned.
What's that? I can't wait.
Frustrating. Bush.